Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. There it is. We hit a button. We start recording. So excited. I feel like I'm running the track and field this morning. This is great. Okay. My guest today is a total badass. She is a marketing leader, over 15 years of experience, specialty in areas of sales and marketing alignment, enterprise, startup, marketing automation, marketing ops, sales forecasting, tracking, reporting, you name it. And she is a thought leader to the stars. And I'll have you know, her great grandfather was Napoleon's right-hand general. The VP of Marketing at Fortress IQ, Christelle Flahaux. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me on.
Man, you are busy.
Lots going on.
Yeah.
Going on.
Even with COVID, we're just like, there's things are happening left and right. And I'm excited to learn from you. This is our marketing leadership series, learning from, senior level marketers, big picture ideas, strategies, the future. So I want to just pass you this thing and shut my mouth. Here we go. It's heavy. You got it?
I got it.
All right. Nice.
All right.
Nice grip there.
I got it.
Okay.
I'm going to put it down here though.
Yeah. Don't want to smash the wall.
I don't want to. Yeah.
So Thor's hammer, take that thing, smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception, set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think everyone's talking about ABM. It's been around for a while. To me, I don't think ABM should be your demand gen strategy. It's not a strategy, and it's not new. For me, it should be a part of an integrated marketing strategy, and it's actually more on the sales side than it is on the marketing side. Yeah, I mean, if you talk about trying to figure out accounts, and yes, there's all the technology out there, and that'll get into my second myth that I'm gonna smash. But I do think there's a lot of technology to enable ABM, but at its core, when you start to think about how you're gonna go attack the market, it really is a sales first strategy, right? Who are those accounts? How are you going to get into them? Where have we been successful in the past? And, sales is at the front line to try and get into those front doors. And it's our job to enable them, whether that be from an inbound strategy or whether that be from a classic outbound / ABM strategy.
Interesting. Okay. So I love this right away. Even at the beginning, you're not just, toting the party line about ABM saving the world, curing all diseases. All you got to do is put the 3 letters in your resume somewhere to say ABM, and then
right, exactly,
leads appear magically.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I started my career as a field marketer, right? I was one of the first field marketers ever hired at Ariba, long time ago, back in the day. And, this is what we did day in and day out. And we spent more time with the sales organization than we did with the marketing organization. And it was crafting these outbound strategies of, you've got a rep and you've got a territory. Let's say they're in Nebraska, what are the accounts that they care about?
Yeah.
Who's going to be a good fit? What are the types of marketing materials that you need to crack into those accounts? What's the messaging? And just, battle 1-to-1, right? And not these big, large campaigns, but how do you get in there with an educated message that's going to resonate with that account? And at its core, that's exactly what ABM is. So field marketers everywhere, you've been doing this for decades. And now technology has caught up to make it easier. And I think marketing now has woken up that this should become part of their overall strategy.
Got it. So not a new strategy, but we got some new tech. And new tech is celebrating like it's best thing since fresh bread. And it's something you're like, man, I've been doing this. I've been doing this without the tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you start talking about attribution too. I mean, I remember the days going into Salesforce and manually figuring out if somebody had gone to an event, like one of my field marketing events, and if we had accelerated the deal, right? None of that existed because we were doing everything in Salesforce, or, even the things that were there before Salesforce. But we always were looking at it, right?
Yeah.
And cobbling it together in some spreadsheet and doing pivot tables and all that fun stuff. And I think marketing automation was the first foray into automating the marketer's life, right? And making it
Mm-hmm.
easier. But that really was an inbound strategy. So while demand gen folks in corporate marketing were doing all this fun stuff and their lives were becoming easier, field marketers were still doing things, manually, and it
Yeah.
sucked. And now, right, all that technology has caught up, and field marketing doesn't necessarily have to do all that stuff by themselves, and they've got a bigger engine back at corporate to help them do the analytics, the attribution, everything else that comes with it.
So maybe the pivot tables are gone, but I get the sense that that question you said is, how do you get in? How do you get a message in front of them that resonates? It's like the tech doesn't magically solve that. It sounds like we're still, and that sounds
Yeah.
like is that a hard question, or do you have like a magic answer you can,
No,
how
it's a
do you
hard
get in
question.
front?
It's a hard question because I think everybody's different, right? It
Yeah,
depends on who you're selling to. It depends if you're selling into enterprise. It depends if you're selling into SMB.
sure.
You have to understand your customer,
Okay.
and you have to understand how your product fits into that customer's purview, right? Like, what is going to make them react? What is going to make them open the door? And that's not something some piece of technology is going to help you understand. You have to figure that out by trial and error, focus groups, talking to the sales guys and gals and figuring out like what is resonating. And then you start to see trends, right? You start to see industry trends, or you start to see use case trends. And then you can start to do these campaigns in a box and, kind of take it out there to the rest of the world. But at its core, trying to figure out what resonates with somebody is still a manual hand to hand combat type of activity.
Right, right. I love the phrase you had there. What is going to make them react? What is going to make them open the door? And that reminded me of what you said earlier about the Salesforce strategy. And I know we're saying like ABM is not the world, so we're gonna go to the overall picture in just a second. But I'd love to get your take on it. Salesforce strategy. What does it look like when it's happening the right way? Can you talk a step, maybe like big step by step?
Yeah.
What is ABM, and what do you mean by sales first? You're pushing them in first. How does that, what does that look like?
Yeah. So the way that I look at the world, right, is almost like a bullseye, right? Like
Okay.
there's your whole, TAM, like your target market, and then you take that and then you narrow it down to this bullseye. I remember walking in to host analytics, and and I asked, "Oh, are we doing ABM?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we got a great ABM program." I'm like, "Okay, cool. How many accounts are in there?" Like 4,000. And I'm like, "What?" That's not ABM, right? That's a customized marketing campaign, right?
Or
That's
a
different.
thousand accounts.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
And so you have to take a look at what matters the most and what your sales organization can take on,
Yeah.
right? Like we've got 10 sales executives at Fortress IQ. I'm not going to have a huge ABM campaign because the sales team doesn't have the capacity to prosecute those, right? So I have a list of top 25 accounts, and those are the accounts that we know we can win at. We know they have the right titles, they have the money, especially during COVID. Like, are they an industry that's actually booming? And those are the accounts we're going to go after. And the way I look at it is, those are the people I'm going to spend more money on,
Hmm.
right? I'm going to do more targeted advertising. I'm going to do an interesting direct mail campaign. I'm going to follow them around and spend money on that. And then, spend time, because that's the other thing we forget. It's not all about spending money, it's spending the
Hmm.
time to work with the sales folks to understand how we can help them. Perfect example at Domo, we did this food truck campaign, and we picked the top 20, 25 accounts that we wanted to go after. And
Wow.
we basically paid for a food truck to show up at the company. This is before COVID,
Yeah.
to show up at the company and say, look, we'll buy your entire finance organization lunch at the food truck in exchange for a meeting with your executives. And it worked. And
Huh.
people did it, right? And it was a fun stunt, but that costs money. And it's
Yeah.
okay to spend money on those accounts that you think are going to have a higher likelihood of conversion, right?
You gotta be
So
smart about it. You can't just buy everyone lunch.
no, you can't, or send everybody cupcakes,
Right.
right? um, Please stop sending cupcakes,
Do people send
because
you a lot
I
of cupcakes?
They used to. I mean, not anymore, but
Yeah.
we used to get cupcakes a lot at
Like
hosting
COVID
holidays.
cupcakes now.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do
Kind of
that.
gross. You'd be like, you don't want to eat these? No,
No,
not
I'm good. I don't
really.
know those have been.
Right.
But yeah, and I think,
Wow.
and then when you talk about a bullseye, you then have, the second tier, right? Which is those accounts that you're not spending as much as you are on the top 25, but you're spending a good chunk of money on the advertising piece, right? It's
Yeah.
light customization, or they fit in certain verticals that you want to go after, and you've got a great use case or a great case study that you can go focus on and put some money behind. And then that outer ring of that bullseye is everybody else that's in your TAM, everybody else you want to get in front of. And that's where traditional inbound starts to play a bigger role. Now, the magic of this is because all the money you're spending on outbound to those very few targeted accounts, those start to become your inbound, right? And then the
Mm,
cycle repeats itself. So I think if you can create something like that, where you have all three pieces, you start to have a very successful ABM campaign. And every quarter, right, you swap out those accounts.
hmm
And see and focus on, are they opening what we're sending them, are they not? If not, maybe our message is wrong, maybe our tactics are wrong. Throw them back in the pool and let's get new accounts until we figure those ones out.
So, so the food truck sounds great. Kind of makes me hungry, honestly. I had a
I know
salad.
it
Probably
is.
should have had more.
It's lunchtime here, so
Is it
I'm
lunchtime there?
hungry yet.
Especially if you started mentioning like what kind of food truck, I would be like party foul because if you mentioned some like burritos or some like fresh
I
Greek
know.
salads or something.
You know what I've been watching on Netflix is the Chef Show with John Favreau and
Chef
Roy
show.
Choi.
The chef show.
Oh, it's so good. And Roy Choi obviously has had the famous food truck for his Korean tacos, and so every time I watch it now, I'm like, all right, we're having tacos. I need
The chef
tacos.
show.
You have to watch it.
Um, cool. Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Oh, right. Because and this is tied to the movie he did, right?
the movie, correct.
Did you
Yep.
see that movie, the chef
I
movie?
have not seen the movie. I want to finish watching the Chef Show and then I
Oh,
want to
you
watch
should
the
go watch it.
movie. Okay.
It's a good movie. I keep trying to watch it. Again, it's great. But oh, so he does his own show. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I'm totally gonna watch this later.
Yeah. It's super fun.
We'll just call the podcast early. We'll be like, okay, we're gonna go hit Netflix.
We're
We're gonna
gonna
get
go
lunch.
get tacos and
Call it a
watch the show.
day. That's awesome. So the food truck was fantastic. Sounds like cupcakes are out. Do you have any like? I know this is a little tactical, but it's kind of fun to think about too. Which is
Yeah.
just like, do you have any like the good list and the bad list? Is like, yeah, do think about things like this and maybe avoid. I mean, even you, like, if I was gonna send you something, what are the things that you were like, whoa, that's cool, and the things that you were just like not into?
Yeah. I mean, I think the key is do your research, right?
Interesting.
And if you're going to send it to one person, um, understand, right, their likes, their dislikes. I mean, you can find anything online, right? Like,
Totally.
spend 5 minutes and you can figure out that, figure out my background, figure out
Sure.
I'm a big sports fanatic. So I'm a big Detroit Lions fan, even though that doesn't bode well for me ever, um, especially this season.
You're a martyr.
Um, I know. It is being a Lions fan has prepared me for all of life's disappointments. So do your research
That's
and
fantastic.
do something that's relevant to that person.
Yeah.
There was a company, I forget the name of it. It was a couple years ago. They were doing these huge posters, comic books, and it
Huh.
was you starring in your own comic. And for marketing, it's easy, right? It's like the battle between sales and marketing, and
Yeah.
so like at first, like you kind of are like fighting, and at the end, we're on the golf course playing golf together. But it was me, right? I mean, somebody had taken my LinkedIn profile picture and drawn a caricature, a cartoon of me, and it was the most amazing. I had it up in my wall. I called the guy immediately. I'm like, I want to go do this for CFOs. And that completely cut through the clutter because I had never seen anything like that before. And it was something that was relevant to me and it was about me.
Right.
And I think if you can do that, I think that makes it a lot more endearing and
hmm
it cuts through the clutter versus I have marketing vendors send me bottles of wine all the time. And, they're etched with their logo and you're just like, okay, that's nice, but everybody's doing that. So come up with something, innovative and unique and different, kind of like we did the food trucks at Domo.
Yeah.
So we are marketers and we're supposed to be creative. So this is
Right.
where this is where the creativity comes in, and give yourself some time to be creative, because it pans out in the end.
Yeah, it makes sense to set aside some creativity time. And it's also a good reminder that, like the let me buy you dinner, here's a bottle of wine. I'm not saying no to wine. I took an appointment with Zoom because they offered me coffee, and I
Right.
was like, okay, I could refill my coffee stash. That's good. And a tumbler. I already have like 1,000 tumblers. Don't send tumblers. I have like
Don't sit
I'm
tumblers.
giving them away. Like I need to donate them all to
Yeah.
Goodwill because there's just so many of them.
Right.
But coffee, I was like, okay, but yeah, some of those things are tired, and you can't do that individual research. You can't listen to the Hardcore Marketing Show Part 2, where you learn about people's lives for every single 4,000 target account. But if you have 25, like you were saying,
Right.
now it's more reasonable. Or a smaller company, like we've
And
got
you have
five.
10 and you have 10 sales reps, right? Like
Yes, 10 sales reps.
they need to do some of this too, right? And I think that's where, like, platforms like Sendoso and PFL and Alice, like, start to become more relevant when you talk about a sales first um, ABM strategy, right? Like,
Yeah,
put the power in their hands to go send things that are relevant, right? Based on their conversations, because they're having the conversations. Marketing isn't. So, you have to partner with sales to make this successful, or else it's going to be like every other inbound campaign you've ever done.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned. I did talk to Greg from Alice. I don't know if you know him.
Hmm.
He's
I
just
don't know him yet.
he's Greg Segal. I don't know if I never asked him if he was related to Steven Seagal, but I should have.
You should.
I
All
should
right.
have.
Well,
That was like a
I'll
fail. I
call him
need
and
to
I'll
like
ask him.
call him right after this. But yeah, he was saying you need to know people's not just their 9 to 5, but their 5 to 9. Like, who are
Yeah.
they outside of work? And I'm glad you mentioned using platforms like that, because my question is, what is sales's role? What is their responsibility in an ABM? Because I've seen certain situations where they're not doing anything yet. Maybe it's just
Right.
because it's still in marketing's hands. Or when are you looking at sales saying like, okay, your turn, guys, tag, you're it. Now it's your turn to do something here.
Well, it's their turn from the beginning, right?
Is
Like
it?
I
Tell me about that.
said,
You said sales first, right? Yeah.
sales first, right? I mean, so one thing that I've implemented almost everywhere I've been, we're going to implement it at Fortress IQ, is this idea of a plan on a page, right? And every year, think of your sales kickoff. Marketing's responsibility is to have a marketing plan for each individual sales rep. And it doesn't need to be complicated, it doesn't need to be a big old marketing plan. But what I've found is if you can give them a piece of paper or a Google Doc and say, okay, here are all the marketing things that are going to happen, right? Just from the top. We're doing
Hmm.
these big trade shows. We're going to launch these campaigns. These are the themes. This is kind of the big stuff that marketing is going to go handle. These are the accounts that you and I, Mr. or Mrs. Salesperson, have decided we're going to go after, and here's how we're going to go attack them. And it could be a series of emails, it could be a webinar, it could be like kind of just pick and choose what are the things that you're going to put together to get in front of
Right.
that account. And then it's a combined effort. And when you start talking about doing a direct mail piece, it's easy. If you say, hey, we're going to go do a new direct mail campaign, this is what it is, sales can be like, oh, yeah, those are perfect. Just opt in my 5 accounts that I want to, that are on my list for the year. And then you have conversations and figure out, like, is it working? Is it not working? Maybe those 5 aren't the right accounts. Take them off and let's put some other ones in there. So I think it's sales first in the sense of we can do all the research, we can help you pick the accounts, but they have to decide. And they're putting their name on the line and saying, I'm going to try and get into these accounts this quarter, and have them sign it, right? Every plan on a page is signed by the sales rep, it's signed by the marketing representative or me. And that's what we're committed to. And then when I present in a QBR, or a field marketing manager presents in a QBR, that's what they present about. How much penetration did we get into the accounts we said we were going to go into together? And that kind of gets everybody on the same page. And everything else that happens in the background is just gravy.
Mm. I can see that working, and I love that you're aligning. Not only you're aligning, but you're getting it on paper. Like, we're both agreeing. It's
It
almost like
is.
an SLA. We're agreeing to this.
Yeah. I mean, no offense to salespeople, they have ADD. And I've learned that early in my career. You've got to say something at least 4 or 5 times. But the minute you put it on a piece of paper, and back in the day before Google Docs, we said if you laminated it, it was official.
Mm,
It's the
yeah,
same process, right? Like if it's in a Google Doc and we've both signed it and you looked at it, this is what we're doing. And if we stray from that, then you know
there's hell to
that's
pay.
either on you or
It's on
you know
somebody.
yeah, it's on somebody. But at
Yeah,
the end of the day, marketing is there to support the sales organization to hit the number, when it comes to the demand generation side of the house.
yeah.
So we're in it together, and if we're not, then we can't win.
Right. And and I want to bring it back because I feel like I got a really good picture now of ABM. Back to your very original point, this is fun to talk about, but this is not your overall demand gen strategy.
No.
What is it, a fraction of it? What percent would you say this is or should be?
I mean, I think it's probably, 25 to 30% of your demand gen strategy. I mean,
Okay.
one of the other things that I've started to do is separate my metrics, right? And there's a lot of things that I'm doing, especially at a young startup around brand.
Yeah.
And a lot of the money I'm putting into brand campaigns are about impressions and about getting our name out there. They're not necessarily going to convert. They might actually screw up my CPL. Because I'm
Right.
trying things, and I'm not going to get an actual conversion out of the thing, but I'm actually trying to get people to notice who we are, and through retargeting and everything else, we can eventually get them into the funnel. But
Okay.
separating those two things out and having metrics around brand and casting a wider net, but then also having a strategy around, like I said, the hand-to-hand combat, and how are we going to get into those accounts versus sitting around and waiting for marketing to procure a lead and get it to an MQL and then pass it over and have an SDR follow up. And that just, all that stuff just takes a ton of time.
Hmm.
So you have to have both, right? You have to have the balance. And then I think, the inbound is probably 40 or 50%. And the brand stuff, of what you should be doing, because that's just building an engine and,
Yeah.
and fueling that engine. And ABM's where you get to have some fun, right? You get to do new
Yeah.
stuff, and you get to maybe spend a little bit more than you would normally do on a program. So that's how I like to think of it.
It's definitely a mix. I definitely see that being the case. And anyone that puts too much in any one of those areas is like stock investing, right? You're not supposed to just put all your stock in Tesla, even though it seemed like a really good idea. It's like
I know.
you gotta spread it out, you know?
You do. And I've seen so many organizations just swing the pendulum,
Yeah.
from one side to the next. And, I always call it whiplash. And, that is not effective, because you end up paying for it in the long run.
Don't swing the pendulum. Though you get the whiplash out of that effect. You know, tech. What's
Yeah.
your view on tech? How does it fit into this? You've got this diversified. You're getting leads from different places, accounts. All these things are happening, and then there's that tech, that shiny new tech.
Yep.
How do you stay sane? How do you keep your soul with like what was it, like 4 vendors now of marketing
Yeah.
technology, whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
Martech says it is now?
No, I know. I don't think it even fits on one page anymore.
I don't think so. Yeah.
But so I have a sign in my office that I've had for a very long time, and it says "Keep it simple,"
Mm,
and it's a very good reminder, especially on the tech front, to just keep it simple. I walked into Host Analytics, and we had something like 40 pieces of technology, and half of them were not implemented correctly or connected. And it was one of those, like, oh wow, kid in a candy store, like, I've never had money to buy all this stuff, and it's
I
so
know.
great, and blah 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 blah. And then you start to kind of peel the onion on it, and you're like, I don't this thing's not even connected. Like, do I even need this? Why am I spending $150,000 a year on this thing?
Yes.
And so I, walking into Fortress IQ, I had the reverse, right? We're such a young company, and I said, well, what's our tech stack? And we had HubSpot.
Right.
Okay, what else? HubSpot. Oh, okay.
Crickets. Right. Like
And at first I was horrified, right? I'm like, oh my God. And then I was like, actually, this is amazing, right? I don't have to undo anything. I don't have
true.
to, and I can take my time in building up the right tech stack for what the company needs today. And you start to then quickly realize what you can survive on without all those bells and whistles. And I think it was Gartner last year put out a survey or a report that said um, most marketers say that 58% of their tech stack is sitting there unused.
Wow.
So that's over half of the tech stack. I mean, and I saw it when I walked into Host, and it kills me because I was a marketing vendor, right? I worked at Marketo, and the power and the beauty of having a marketing automation tool, and I fell, in love with Marketo early on, and it's easy to fall in love with technology, and it's
Oh
easy
yeah.
to say, "Oh, this is so cool," and "Oh, we could go do this," or and it you can buy stuff, right? Because marketers now know how to buy technology, and the CFO understands that marketing has to buy technology. But I think we can overdo it. And my big myth, because you asked to dispel another myth, is you don't need all that stuff,
Hmm.
and that stuff isn't going to fix your fill in the blank problem, right? Buying another piece of technology is not going to fix your pipeline problem. Buying a piece of technology isn't going to automatically do ABM for you. There's a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking that needs to happen. And then when it's right, go find the technology that's best suited. Everyone's asking me, the minute I joined a company, right? I've got 100 vendors in my
Oh
inbox.
God, I can't imagine.
Hey, remember me from so and so? And everyone's like, what are you using for ABM? And I'm like, nothing. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, and
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
I'm not ready for ABM. I will be ready for ABM maybe come January
Right.
and planning for 2021. But right now, I got some other stuff that I need to go focus on. So take your time with tech, understand it, and buy it because it fits into your strategy. But you've got to understand what your strategy is to begin with.
Boom.
And
That's
you
like the
can
mic
survive.
drop. You can just
Yeah,
like
just
drop the
mic
mic.
drop. Bye. Yeah. But you can survive on 5 to 6 pieces of technology.
Totally. Totally. Um, I wonder what those are. And I'll throw that question out to you. And then I'll say
Okay.
one quick thing to delay and give you a chance to think about it. Um, I saw someone post on LinkedIn probably like 3 months ago. Here's my tech stack. Am I missing anything? And there was like 24 things in the list. You actually had to hit more on LinkedIn. And then I was like,
Just scroll down.
yeah, I'm like, no, I don't think you need more, friend. I think probably you could do more with less.
Yeah.
Wow. It
Yeah.
just kept going. It was almost like a badge of like, look at us. And it's like, no,
Right.
not really. You could spend that getting much more business. So what do you think? Is there some bare minimums these days?
Yeah.
2020? Are there some certain tech pieces you just like you look to first, maybe we'll say, when you get to
Yeah.
a new company?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a marketing automation system, right?
Right.
You got to have a CRM. You got to have a marketing automation system. You've got to have a data strategy. And when you start to have the data strategy, you can figure out, if it's data pending, do you need to serve it up to the sales team, right? There's so many things around data. And, we haven't even talked about intent or any of the other stuff that's
I
out there,
know.
but just core basic data, right?
Yep.
Like, you walk into a place and you've got 10,000 contacts in your database and you've got to grow it to 200,000 by, in 2 years. How are you going to go do that?
Right.
And it's not buying lists, but it's doing things like data appends and
Hmm.
doing all that on the back end on your forms. And so that is a for sure next step after you have your marketing automation system. And then some of the things that come with that, right? The deduplication, the lead routing, the kind of just the basics of handing off a good clean lead from marketing to sales. That needs to be in place. If you're going to do an ABM strategy, I think that should be one of the things that you need, right? You need a ABM. I was just on the phone with a Forrester analyst the other day, kind of this idea of orchestration, this
Mm.
ABM orchestration platform. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this space um, as they start to come down into the marketing automation platforms, and if those two are going to collide or what's actually going to happen with
Yeah,
inbound and outbound,
that's a good point.
because they're two separate systems right now.
Yeah.
And the integrations obviously work really well, but My money's on somebody coming out with this kind of Uber platform for both, which would be pretty interesting.
Do you think you just start
So,
acquiring, like Salesforce acquires Terminus and
mhm,
Marketo acquires somebody?
somebody or Six Sense,
Sixth Sense, yeah.
acquires somebody or build or
Demand
or
base.
builds the technology. We already saw demand based by Engagio.
Right.
Uh, so I do think there's definitely some acquisitions in the near future.
Hmm.
And it's going to change how we look at our tech stacks, because they're going to be things that we just need in the system that we're using day to day. I mean, I became a marketer to be a marketer. I didn't become a marketer to be an IT specialist and figuring out how 24 pieces of technology fit together. So I think it's going to have to become a heck of a lot easier for marketers to do their day jobs and get the data that they need in the analytics. I
Yeah.
think the other piece of technology that we probably need as marketers is they're on the reporting front. Now, Marketo bought Visible, right? So you saw that all those acquisitions, but the reporting today still is a little bit hodgepodge. And if you don't have a really fantastic marketing ops person, it can be a little overwhelming. So, some way to report, whether it be visualization or BI, like a Looker or Domo, to be able to kind of tell that full end-to-end story, I think is another important piece.
Yeah. I think that kind of simplifies all the different tech stacks, then the crazy add-ons. And then you can, if you, it's like fully use these things or get them really close, get them 80%,
Yep.
then look at whatever else you're going to add on, not going on a shopping spree because you went to Dreamforce and now you want to buy everything in sight, you know?
Exactly. Somebody took you to a nice dinner, and now you
Yeah.
have to buy their software. Yeah, no, I mean, look at you just even marketing automation, the amount of people that still use marketing automation for batch and blast,
Yeah.
right? That
A
don't
lot.
have nurture, sophisticated nurtures. They aren't really using scoring the way that they're supposed to. They think there's a lot even in the marketing automation platforms that marketers aren't tapping into.
Yeah. We do our little assessment. We have the CSI part out assessment, marketing automation assessment, and the average score out of 10 is 3. Um,
Wow.
and it's not even a bell curve. It's like lots of zeros, usually HubSpot users. Shots fired. And then there's ones and twos,
Yeah,
a lot of threes, and then it drops off like a cliff. And then there's barely any fours on up when
that's
people
fascinating.
when we first meet them. Because yeah, and you're like, man, these things are pricey. Marketing
Yeah.
automation is an investment. So and there's power to be gained from it. Maybe you should use that.
Yeah,
You
get
know?
that figured out first, and
Yeah.
then figure out what you're missing,
Right.
right? Because there you can do a lot of stuff with what you probably already have in house.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets into the whole idea around, I mean, the pros and cons. Like, just because a feature exists doesn't mean you should use it. Um, or maybe you should. And I wonder, because I mean, this ties into like product marketing and getting the information out. Is what's your take on product marketing? I mean, double-edged sword. Do you need it? Do you use it? Who do you
Yeah,
hire to do that? Do you need a
yeah,
specialist?
yeah. So, I mean, I grew up. My entire career has been demand gen, field marketing focused, right? I've never
Yeah.
been a product marketer, nor do I ever claim that I've
Same
been
here.
one.
Yeah.
And I've worked with fantastic product marketers, and I have seen really good product marketing, and I've seen
Huh.
really bad product marketing. And it is something that is an art. I think it's less on the science side, a lot more on the art side,
Sure.
and trying to find a product marketer that is a perfect fit for your organization is really hard to go do. So when we were at Host Analytics, we had that problem, like trying to find somebody who understood how to sell to finance, right? How to talk to finance,
Tough.
and somebody who also was able to, demo a product, understand it technically, understand the back end of it, and then turn that into a very well crafted marketing. I mean, it's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. And so we struggled to find somebody that fit that perfect profile. And what we ended up doing is finding somebody that was on the implementation team that had a finance background. He was a CPA, and we turned him into a product marketer.
Hmm.
And he was fantastic because he understood the product, he could demo it, He could work with product management. He knew what those people wanted and how to talk to them. So I think for product marketing, you don't always have to find, the perfect product marketer who's gone through, pragmatic marketing and all that other
Hmm.
stuff. I think those things are, um, it's great if you can find them, but they're just really, really, really hard to find.
Got it.
So, find somebody that's just, you know, got maybe a little bit of a leaning towards marketing and can write well and can describe things really well, but that truly understands the product.
Yeah, understands the product and the has talked to customers, has seen this
Yeah.
in action. It's not theoretical, you know.
I mean, I
Yeah,
remember when I started my career, most product marketers like went on customer calls.
yeah,
Like salespeople took them on customer calls because they were the experts.
right.
And I don't think people do that anymore. I
Yeah, it
don't
turns
think,
that's like an SE now, and they do demos. I don't
yeah,
know what happened with that. That's You're right. That's kind of weird.
yeah, it's really weird. So I do think, I believe in product marketing and I think we need it. But maybe don't maybe think a little bit outside of the box when you're hiring somebody that may not be the perfect fit.
Right. It's cool though. You don't necessarily need the textbook person. You found it from within and from a division that really it had everything. I mean, to talk finance and to be a CPA, like that's great. You
That's
got it.
hard to teach. That's
Yeah.
hard to teach,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. No, you really like. What are you gonna? How are you gonna? Especially if they don't want to learn that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We need you to take the CPS CPA
CPA
certification
exam.
course.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Like,
that's not going
yeah,
to
I'm
happen.
gonna go get a job at a startup now. I'm out.
I'm out. We're not doing this.
It's a
Yeah.
food startup too. Like, I'm just gonna go over here.
Rethinking all my life's choices. Yeah,
Seriously.
no, I mean, it is in most of what we learn as marketers. I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, I graduated a long time ago, but I learned the basics and I learned the strategy and I learned how to think and, the 4 P's of marketing, now the 5 P's.
Mm,
But when you talk about, actual tactical day-to-day stuff that you need to go do, this is all I learned marketing automation on my own. I learned about tech on my own. I learned how to do reporting and attribution on my own. I didn't go to a class for any of that. So I do think
yeah.
there's a lot to be said about hands-on uh, job experience.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that totally. That so. I mean, you got me curious. Who are you, Christelle from Belgium? Like, with a cool last name. Like, who are you? Take us back in time.
Sure.
Where did you grow up? What did you do? Did you always know you're going to be in marketing like this? And what's the story?
So fun story. So yeah, I was born in Belgium.
Cool.
My parents moved to the United States when I was about 9 months old. So I do speak fluent French. Most of my family still lives in Belgium. All my
Wow.
cousins, aunts, uncles. So I try and go back once a year to see everybody. Although, with COVID, can't right now.
I know.
But I spent 4 years in Scotland. So I did go. I spent a few years in grade school in Scotland. So I actually had a Scottish accent for a while, which my dad actually has on tape, which is kind of funny.
I was gonna say, do you want to say it now? Put
No,
yourself
I'm
on
good.
tape.
Thanks.
You're good.
Thanks.
How old were you? So you were like in grade school kind of thing?
Yeah, so I actually went to Scotland twice. So once it was like kindergarten age, and then went back when I was in fifth and sixth grade.
Wow, your parents like
Um,
spies, or what's the deal?
no, no, my dad was in manufacturing, and he
Got
would
it.
open plants and stuff. Um, so we did that, and then I grew up in Michigan. So this is where my love of the Detroit Lions comes from. Grew up in Michigan. I went to grade school there, high school there, and then I actually wanted to be a biomedical engineer. I
Oh,
had
gotcha.
this passion around wanting to help little kids, and especially little kids that needed prosthetics to help them live almost normal lives. And so Marquette in Milwaukee was one of, I think, 17 or 18 schools that actually had it as an undergrad program.
Oh,
So I
wow.
went to Marquette, went through all the engineering courses for my first 2 years, and then one day just decided I didn't want to do that anymore.
Wow.
Like I just loved
Engineering
math.
courses. Were you doing like chips and like design or systems and
No, it was
electricity or?
mechanical. So I think it was the class that broke me, I think, was statics and fluid dynamics,
Oh
where
God.
it literally like calculus and physics applied to how the blood flows through the heart.
I don't
And I
know.
was like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
not cut out for this.
Like formulas of liquid formulas. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I think what it did teach me is how to think like an engineer.
Hmm.
And how to be on the science side of marketing. And I'm really good with numbers. I have a minor in mathematics. So for me, it wasn't a lost cause, right? I took that and I took the math, all the math that I had taken, and then ended up getting a marketing degree in 2 years, which was pretty hard, but it was a lot of fun. It was a hell of a lot easier than engineering. Um, and
So like a
so
4-year degree in 2 years, like
in
that's
two
pretty
years.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took a lot of classes, but it was a lot of fun and I loved it. And it wasn't hard work for me, because it was easy and I understood it. And I really enjoyed all my classes and all the projects that I got to do. So I found what I wanted to go do.
Yeah.
And then I moved to California for about a year and I started, after I graduated, I was in sales.
Huh. Yep.
So I was actually a sales assistant, and before they had SDRs, for
Yeah.
one of the sales reps, and did the cold calling and everything else that
So
goes with it.
you've been there. You've done it.
Back when like it was a phone book,
Yeah.
right? Like there was not a lot on the
There's
internet.
no speed dialer either. You're
No
mashing
speed
buttons
dial.
on a phone.
Yep, you had to check your voicemail every morning because you didn't know if anybody had called you back. So yeah, it was one of those other learning moments where I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So I ended up, when I was at Marquette, had met a professor at the University of Memphis in the sports marketing department. And so I applied to go do my graduate work in sports marketing,
Oh wow. Okay.
in Memphis, of all places, and did that for a couple years. I worked for FedEx, which was a
Wow.
life altering experience. Just working at
What's
talk
that
about.
like?
I mean, there's not a lot in Memphis, right? So
Oh
like
right.
FedEx kind of runs the city, and I was in the sports marketing department, and I got to work on stuff like. The FedEx Orange Bowl. I got
Oh
to do the
wow.
FedEx St. Jude Golf Classic, the Southern Heritage Bowl, the Liberty Bowl. And, it was just, I got to do a lot of the kart races back when Indy and kart split up. Hockey, we sponsored the NHL. So it was a tremendous experience in learning about brand
Yeah.
and how strong that brand was, and translating that brand into sports sponsorships, and what we would sponsor and what we wouldn't sponsor. So to me, I learned so much. I got to build a suite at the FedEx Stadium in Memphis, the Redbird Stadium. So I get to put a hard hat on and like help design the suite.
Like
So
you
that was
designed it even from scratch. Like you sponsored it. It's your suite, and then you're gonna make it your own.
colors and what artwork, like which plane, pictures of the planes we were going to put up there, and then
Wow.
handled all the ticketing that went with it. So, definitely learned a lot and wanted to stay in sports marketing. And then I moved out to California, and it was really hard to find a job in sports marketing as somebody
Mm,
fresh out of college. So I ended up starting as a marketing coordinator at an environmental
okay.
consulting company, and did that for about four years. And then, the tech bubble kind of burst. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And back when Monster was still a thing, I had my resume up on
Yeah, remember
Monster.
that.
And Ariba reached out to me, and they were looking for a field marketing manager, which I had no experience, didn't know what that even meant. And they took a chance on me, and I started working at Ariba and spent 5 years there, and went from field marketing manager on the West Coast to managing the whole team, and then bringing in marketing automation and demand generation, and helping start up the SDR team there, right when the whole Ariba turnaround was starting to happen. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot from my career there.
Jeez.
I helped implement Salesforce.com.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun. So, and then from there, I just kind of continued my career in tech, and went to Taleo after that, and built out a field marketing organization there. And then after Taleo, I went to Marketo, right when it was
Nice.
in its early years. So that was a fun experience, and talk about meeting so many great marketers that have come out of Marketo and
Seriously.
being part of that team. And I was brought in because they were all inbound. I was brought in to do outbound
Nice.
because of my enterprise film marketing experience. So, worked with John Miller
Yep.
on, the concept of an account score, which now is like everybody has an account score.
Why wouldn't you have one? Yeah,
Why wouldn't you
totally.
have one? But back then, there was no need for account scores. So it was definitely one of those experiences I'll never forget. And then left Marketo, went to Jive.
Oh, cool.
Again, another piece of amazing technology. Right after their IPO, and built up demand gen and marketing ops there and field marketing globally. And then after that, where did I go? Oh, I went to MapR
MapR,
and
yeah.
went to like the Hadoop space, which I mean, I did 2 years of engineering, but try hanging out with a bunch of data sciences,
Oh my goodness.
data scientists, and understanding like Hive and Drill and Apache and Kafka and Kubernetes and all this other stuff. So I learned a lot
Was that your
there.
nerdiest company you've
That,
been at?
other than this one, yeah, that's been the nerdiest company. It's
Fortress
Fortress
is a
IQ's.
little nerdy, but it's got a cool name.
It's
So,
got a cool name. It's cool technology. It is nerdy, although we don't sell to IT. We actually sell to the business side.
oh, nice.
So, which is really
Nice.
cool. But the
Yeah.
technology is super nerdy. I mean, if you're a Star Trek fan or sci-fi fan, like this technology is for you. It's fascinating what we're able to do. So, I'm excited to be at Fortress IQ and kind of lead the marketing charge and see where this whole industry is going to go because there's a lot happening.
Yeah, and the idea of AI and using that to really figure out data at a level of which humans are like just trying to scratch the surface of is who knows where it goes,
Right.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, we were all brought up to be afraid of AI, right?
Right.
Like the computers are going to take over.
Well,
Right.
Hollywood hasn't helped with that.
Right. No, it is. It's kind of
Got great
this,
examples.
yeah, Terminator,
Yeah.
war games back in the 80s,
Have you seen that Ex
Star Trek.
Machina, that one?
Yes, that one actually creeped me out.
Oh, yeah.
That one creeped me out. But I think uh, with technology today, the beauty of AI and what we're trying to do is that we're not trying to replace the human. We're trying to make a human's job more efficient so they can then go spend time on more strategic things, and the ability to use automation to streamline processes throughout your entire organization without even having to do any sort of implementation or integration. That's
Yeah,
fascinating to me.
that
Like if
is.
I could, one day just be like, God, this whole, switching in and out of Pardot and Excel and this and that, like, could I just streamline this whole thing?
Yeah.
And for me, as a business user, to be able to go do that, that's fascinating to me. So I think there's a lot more to come in this industry, and I'm excited to be at Fortress IQ because I think we're going to lead it.
Yeah. That everything points to that's what I'm seeing over here too. Um, Question, now that we talked about the future,
Hmm.
a hypothetical question. I might actually have a time machine here in New Hampshire that I'll
Oh,
let you use it after COVID and
cool.
everything. You get to go back in time, but it takes you back to a certain time. You just
Okay.
graduated your undergrad, and you're off to the races. At least you're not in engineering anymore, but you're
Yeah.
marketing. What should
Yep.
I do? If you could talk to that version of you, what kind of advice would you give her? What kind of things would you tell her?
That's a tough question, but I think for me, especially as I have a 16-year-old who's going, starting to apply to colleges, and
Yeah,
she's going to start on this part of her journey. I think when you're that young, you have this desire to be right all the time. Like I have to be right. Like I can't, this concept of failure. It's like it's all or nothing. And I think I would go back to my 18, or 21-year-old self and say, you don't always have to be right,
mm-hmm.
but you have to try.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be wrong, and learn from your mistakes, and just don't do them again. Right. and
Yeah,
and that's how you learn and you grow. And I think you do learn the most from your biggest failures. And that's when you really grow, and it's okay. And you have to go through that. Because if you walk around wanting like, I'm not turning this in until it's 100% right and perfect.
Yeah.
That takes time. It's stressful.
Yeah.
And what are you really learning in that process? So I think that's what I would tell myself is it's okay. You can be wrong. Just learn from it and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, would you listen to yourself?
Probably not.
That's always the question. We're like, "Well, I don't know if I would listen." Like, I'd be smacking myself around. Come on, Casey, you got this. um,
Focus.
it's true though. It's true. The whole idea of like, a good plan now is better than the perfect plan like 5 years from now when it's a totally different industry altogether, anyways. And I've felt that need for perfection with writing sometimes,
Hmm.
and sometimes it'll keep me from doing more like writing and blog writing because I can make it really good, but the better and better I make it, the longer and longer it takes
It
me to do it.
takes.
And then eventually you're like the Game of Thrones guy. HBO's all done with you. You still haven't finished the books. Dude, let's
Dude,
go.
let's finish. Yeah. No, I know. I totally agree. And
Yeah.
trying to get the perfect ad copy written, which takes a really long time, right? It's
Yeah.
easier to write something super long than try and, cram perfect ad copy into a small little space. And that's what I try and tell my team. Like, it's as long as there's no spelling mistakes, but just go fast, look at the results, A B test the heck out of everything,
Yeah.
and whatever wins, keep doing that. And then we can change it up. But I'd rather get stuff out the door and with no spelling mistakes, but
Y-
get
Yeah.
stuff out the door.
Yeah. We got to
And
have some standards here, people.
yeah, then
Okay.
kind of just sit around and wait for the perfect ad to happen. So
Yeah.
totally agree with you.
If your grammar's a little off, but at least you're not, some blatant like misspell in there, like no
Yeah,
one proofread it, then I'm good. Like I always catch
exactly.
those newspapers, and I'm not even that guy. I'm not even an editor, but for some reason my eyes like, look at that thing, and I was like, ah,
Yeah, like the
ah.
their their instead of there, right? Or it's without the apostrophe. Right? Yeah, I mean, there's
It's
so
yeah,
much, but as long as you catch those mistakes, even after it's published, I mean,
true.
it's
Live
not.
edit, get it out of there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And speaking of that, I shifted to doing more podcasts. It was about 2.5 years ago when it was like, I gotta write a bunch of stuff, like get over the perfection mindset but also like maybe you don't know everything. So getting over the fact that you need to know everything and it has to be perfect. Let's go talk to other people. And that's where like even the podcast came. I wonder though if there's something around the live.
Yep.
And I know we're both big fans of like live music and there's something about that. You're not always perfect doing live music. It won't sound like the CD,
Right.
but I will pay money to go do that when Spotify gives it to me for like $15.
Right. Yeah. It's the experience. Right.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, especially now, right, with us, everyone being at home, and I get really sad knowing that I can't go see live music, right?
Yeah.
And I don't go see live music because I want to go see a perfect show. I go see live music because I actually do want to see that these people are human and
Yes.
that they can make mistakes, and they have an incredible voice. But I mean, I remember seeing the Foo Fighters. I'm a big Dave Grohl fan at I forget where. I think it was Bottle Rock,
Okay.
and
Not
he
Dreamforce
started.
because he
It
definitely
wasn't
didn't.
Dreamforce. I've seen him at Dreamforce, but it wasn't at Dreamforce.
Okay, I was at that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good show. But this was at Bottle Rock a couple years ago, and he like messed up a song like twice when he was starting it off, and like he just was like he stopped the whole band. He's like, "Come on, we got to do that over again." And I think I think those are the endearing moments.
Yeah.
Those are the moments where you can connect with them and be like, "Oh my god, like this person that I idolize isn't perfect." Like, I mean, he's fallen off
Yeah.
the stage. I mean, remember when he
Yeah.
continued the concert after
Yeah.
breaking his ankle or leg? I can't remember.
And then he came back and he still played.
He still played. So to me, that's why we go see these things. And I think that's how you connect to humans, right?
Hmm.
We're all flawed some
Yeah.
way.
Right.
And it's okay that we're flawed. And because it just makes it a lot more real.
Yeah. It's so right about the perfection. I like hearing the conversation in between too.
Yes,
And I'm sure Dave had some choice words when he messed up that song a couple of times.
he
sure,
did.
sure,
He
it's like
did.
he's like swearing at himself or something. But yeah, that's what or they comment on stuff, and that's why the crowd goes wild when they're like, "Hey, Boston, hey, San Francisco," or whatever, because you're like, "Whoa, you couldn't have recorded that." Well, you could
Right.
have, but like
Right.
now we know you're not lip
You're
syncing.
aware.
Yeah, you're aware. You
Yeah.
know where you're at.
Yeah.
It just makes it more real. What's the balance though? Because we just harped on you can't have spelling errors. We want to see some kind of not perfect, but also not unprofessional. Is
Yeah.
there something there? How do you draw the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we did our style guide at Host, and we talked a lot about just tone and who we are as the company, because it is obviously it's part of your brand, but even something as simple as like it's okay to use contractions, right? Like
Mm,
professionally, when you write, you're not supposed to use contractions, right?
really?
But you can
Good to know.
right, right. Like it's okay to, to say, instead of we are, we're, right? Like those things are fine. It depends on your brand. Like, should IBM do that? No, probably not, right? They're known for being super professional.
Right.
Um, but if the tone of your company is to be a little bit more casual, then that's fine. I mean, don't use swear words, and don't use profanity, make crass jokes. Like you can be witty, you don't need to be cheesy.
Yeah.
There is a balance there. And I think when you achieve that balance, I think that's what makes it really smart marketing.
Hmm.
Because it is funny and it's relatable. But it also maybe makes you think of a particular problem a different way. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they actually have an interesting angle on it and they're approachable and I do want to talk to them. So I think that finding that balance is going to be different for everybody. But I tend to err on the side of we can be a little bit more casual.
Yeah. It's finding that common voice, and I guess that's the hard part. Is there's a brand voice, but you have like anywhere from 1 to 30 people all trying to convey that. And hopefully they've done a great job of hiring and everyone kind of feels it anyways. Otherwise, the, I mean, the whole point is to be authentic, right? And it's almost
Yep.
like people can sniff that out. Like, weird, you're being formal and it doesn't seem like you showed, or you're not being formal.
Yeah.
It's like the IBM are trying to be casual, and you're like, it's not,
It's not working.
not working. Hey, do you want to hang 10 with me and get a drink?
Yeah.
Like, what?
No, no.
Be
Yeah.
real.
That's even more awkward.
It
Yeah,
is.
it just has to fit, right? Like I used to
Mhm.
do a lot of speaking engagements, and you know, I, I'm known to like walk on stage with a cup of coffee in my hand, right? Or
Cool.
I'm super casual, or I'll wear jeans and a jacket, or like it's your own personal brand too,
Mhm.
and how you kind of portray yourself, and that's just me.
Yeah.
I was featured in the Medium Authority magazine,
Yeah.
and I've had a lot of people comment on it, and they're like, it was so you. And I was like, yeah, because I didn't sit there and like overthink my answers and try and find this like perfect, thing
Yeah.
that nobody else has said that everyone's going to think is super cool. I just don't have time.
Yeah.
B, I'm at an age now where this is me, right? This
Yeah.
is what you get.
Take
So,
it or leave it kind of thing. Yeah.
and that's okay. And I love what you said about be authentic. And I
Mhm.
think every brand and every person should be their authentic self.
Yeah. In the end, we really like each other when we're being ourselves. Kind of
Yeah.
funny, but we all think that we won't. Like, we all think the other person won't like us when we're being ourselves, but actually we don't like you when you're not being yourself. Just
Right.
be
Totally.
yourself. Yeah. It's
Totally.
like a weird trick. It's
Yeah.
a myth.
Yep. Totally agree.
So, first show you're going to try to see, let's say
Oh,
all the bands are all on sale everywhere. So what band and then what location? And I'll think of my answer too.
so Pearl Jam, because I'm a
Interesting. Cool.
huge Pearl Jam fan. I was actually supposed to see them. I had tickets for like 6 shows this summer, both
You
here in
you
the
had six
US.
tickets to 6 shows,
Mm-hmm.
all
Yep.
all in different areas.
Yeah. So in
Wow,
the
you are a
US,
fan.
I am a fan. Yeah. And I had tickets to see them at Hyde Park in
Mm,
London. And
wow.
I think and they are going to be in Hyde Park next year, supposedly in London. And tickets actually, I think, are on sale now or are going on sale. So that would probably be my first concert. But I think if somewhere local, so I live in Northern California, beautiful area, and we
Yeah.
have this venue called the Mountain Winery up in Saratoga,
Cool.
and it's up in the mountains, and it's this gorgeous venue. It doesn't seat very many people, but I've seen some amazing performers there, and that would be my go-to. Like, I don't care who's playing. Um, I
Yeah.
will I will go to that first show.
We've got one like that in New Hampshire here where it's north and you think, why would anyone come here? But I saw Dave Matthews there. I've seen other
Yeah,
people there. Yeah, a lot of different like Goo Goo Dolls and just all sorts of different interesting groups that are there. But to your point, the venue is like where you got all these like little shops and it's like rolling hills and green and
yeah,
good use of outdoor. It's like
yep,
outdoor. And I would go there over, you know, the Boston Garden or anywhere downtown any day
yep.
for
Same.
sure. And parking lot, you can actually hang out in the parking lot as opposed to some parking garage in some big city.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This place is cool because it's an actual winery, so you can like
That's even cooler.
tailgate. You can tailgate in the parking lot with bottles of wine. So, yeah, that would for sure be my go-to.
See, that
What about
reminds me.
you?
Oh,
What's your first show that you would go to?
um, I think it might be kind of like a Dave Matthews or something. I could just like
Mm-hmm.
get super chill to outdoor,
Mm-hmm.
nice weather, and then the tailgating thing where you just get a bunch of friends together. Maybe we'll grill
Hang
some
out.
on some stupid little grill, just whatever it is, just hang out with some friends,
Yeah.
get some music where you can just kind of forget about yourself for a little bit at a time. Hopefully someone else is driving, so you don't have to like worry about it. You're like, oh, my
Yeah,
mom's gonna pick me up. Actually,
that's
this
fine.
place is like an hour from my parents, so I imagine one day in the future I'm gonna be like, hey,
You come get me. Yeah, I know. My daughter can drive now, so I've told her,
oh,
mom may call you after a concert.
you have a DD. Don't do what I'm doing, right? See, I'm not driving. I'm calling you. So you do that with
Yeah, you
me.
do the same thing.
That's
So
cool. I like it. It's good.
yeah,
Good
she's
example.
like, okay, mom, whatever.
Right. I haven't gotten to that age. They still believe everything I say for the most part. For the most part.
Yeah, yeah, it goes away pretty quickly.
Yeah. Hey, where can people connect with you? They want to follow you,
Sure.
learn more about you, say hi, start a
Yeah.
conversation. What are some
So
good
on
places?
LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
Christelle Flahaux, LinkedIn. You can find me on there. And then my Twitter handle is Marketing Stella. So MKTG Stella. And
Where does
then
that
you
come from? Is that like a nickname?
So Stella's my nickname. I got it in college, and now it's my Starbucks name because trying to get somebody to actually like write out Christelle is really hard.
It's true.
So and a couple people, like a lot of my really good friends, call me Stella. So
Where did it come from? Was this some crazy night?
no, so back in college, I mean, Seinfeld was a thing. I don't know if you
Mm,
remember the Seinfeld episode where Elaine takes too many. I think it's pills for her back, and I think I can't remember what it is. I think it's her aunt and uncle or Jerry's aunt and uncle, and the woman's name is Stella, and she does the Stella.
yes.
So,
I'm looking
and I
at it right
have
now.
curly
Oh yeah, that's her.
hair, and I had glasses, and so I kind of looked a little bit like Elaine back then, and so it just kind of stuck.
That's funny. That's cool. I just found the episode.
Yeah,
That's funny that's cool. It's cool. And you're right, it's easier. I mean, I've had Starbucks call me Cassie and all sorts of weird things.
yeah.
Maybe we all should just, for one day, just all tell them the same name. The whole
The
everyone.
whole yeah, that'd be interesting.
Start a trend.
But it's so funny, like how many people have a Starbucks name.
I don't have one. I should come up
You
with one.
should come up with one.
I have one for the hair cutting place. They're always like first name, last name. I'm like, why do you need my or last initial?
Oh,
So
okay.
I always see, this is me. I need to get up to your level where you just full out different name, but I'm like, who, Casey? Then like, what's your last initial? And I pick a random letter, but now I settled on
Oh,
X
oh,
because
that's good.
They're like, "What's your last name? Xylophone?" Like, they don't. How do you have a last name? But yeah, I should change my first name too.
You should. You should. Yeah, on the X thing, when I always spell my last name, right? Because it ends with an X and
It's true.
A, like F like Frank, L like Larry, A, and then I get to X and I'm like, X like X-ray
X-ray.
or xylophone. And then that's about it.
There's
Those are
like
the fun
not many
X.
options. Yeah, you got to pick one or two. Well,
Yeah.
hey, this has been awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me and teaching and sharing this knowledge. And it's been awesome.
It's been great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. And for those people listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I have 2 pages of notes front and back. Ran out of room. I'm in the
Nice.
margins. Then share this with someone. Be a thought leader. That's what you do. LinkedIn is a great place for that. Tag Christelle, tag myself, but don't just share a link. You actually put those in the comments. Um, that's how LinkedIn wants you to put them in the comments. But what you do is you put your takeaways in the top. What's one takeaway you had? You put that in there. You start a discussion. That's what you want to do. That's how you engage your network, and that's what I recommend. And with that, Stella, you're amazing.
I
Thank
love
you for
it.
being here. We'll have to have you come
Thanks,
back on later and
Casey.
just catch
Yeah,
up.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Those people listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.